On March 22, 2025, downtown Memphis turned into a straight-up war zone. Sauce Walka and CSOP were chilling outside the Western Hotel right near the FedEx Forum when a car pulled up, and out jumped several armed men, letting off shots without hesitation. What really got people losing their minds, though, is the fact that just days later, one of those shooters was already found dead. It's wild. Let's break this down. The shooting happened at around 2:42 p.m. local time, and according to the Memphis police, this wasn't no random hit. Nah, they confirmed it was a targeted attack. That means Sauce Walka and CSOP were picked out on purpose, which immediately had everyone asking the big question: who wanted to take them out and why? As the news spread like wildfire, fans and artists from all over jumped online, showing love and worry for the two. Sauce Walka, whose real name is Albert Walker Mundane, caught a shot in the leg. He got rushed to the hospital, and even though it was a serious situation, it wasn't life-threatening, thankfully. Sauce Walka, famous for lighting up Houston's rap game and running the Sauce Factory label, was expected to pull through. CSOP, whose real name was Latian Hunt, was just 27 years old, a Memphis-born rapper whose life was tragically cut short right there at the scene. His passing shook the whole community, leaving heavy hearts and raising even louder questions about what pushed this violent setup. The bond between Sauce Walka and CSOP ran way deeper than just business ties. Their connection actually started out on the streets of Houston, but not how you'd expect. It wasn't through music at first. They linked up through the street racing scene, catching each other's respect way before the studio ever came into play. Over 2 years, their friendship kept growing stronger, with Sauce Walka recognizing the real in CSOP. That's what led him to bring him into the Sauce Factory family. This wasn't just some label signing for clout. It was personal. Sauce Walka even called CSOP his little brother, which makes the events of March 22nd hit way harder for everyone close to them. As more details about the ambush came to light, it was revealed that security footage caught the chilling moment it all unfolded. 3 men hopped out of a white car parked on George W. Lee Avenue. 2 of them, one rocking a black coat and the other in red, sprinted straight toward the black Escalade where the rappers were posted, and without skipping a beat, they opened fire. The footage, which TMZ got their hands on, started blowing up online around March 25th to 26th, 2025, showing one victim, believed to be CSOP, caught in the chaos. CSOP collapsed behind the Escalade while Sauce Walka managed to escape the chaos. The shooters didn't stick around long. They sprinted back to their ride and sped off, leaving behind a brutal scene that was about to explode across headlines nationwide. Right after the shooting, the cops jumped into action fast, using every bit of surveillance footage and real-time tracking they could get their hands on. The Memphis Police Department was grinding nonstop to piece the whole thing together and lock down who was behind this violent ambush. And they moved quick. By March 26, 2025, just days later, they had a name. Police identified 21-year-old Jaden Dandridge as a suspect in the case. He got hit with some serious charges: 1 count of first-degree murder, 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder, 2 counts of using a firearm during a dangerous felony, and even auto theft. To crank up the pressure, authorities put out a $6,000 reward for any tips that could lead to his capture, showing just how bad they wanted to bring him in. Spotting Dandridge as a suspect gave people a few answers, but the biggest questions were still hanging heavy. What sparked this violent hit? Was it personal beef? Some street rivalry? The whole hip-hop community, along with fans of both artists, was desperate to understand what really went down, and if there was a deeper story hiding beneath the surface. As Sauce Walka fought through his recovery, he jumped on social media to speak out and show love to his fallen brother. In a video that quickly made its rounds online, Sauce Walka appeared in surprisingly good spirits, even though he was still healing, as he showed off where he got shot and poured his heart out for CSOP. The video, which spread like wildfire, showed Sauce unwrapping his bandages to reveal the raw wounds. You could hear someone off camera trying to lighten the mood, saying, "It's not that bad, it's not that bad." Maybe they were just trying to keep the energy positive in such a heavy moment. In that same clip, Sauce Walka gave a heartfelt shout-out, mentioning Sauce and P CSOP as a clear tribute to his lost friend and artist. This video, along with a flood of emotional posts on social media afterward, gave the world a real look at what Sauce Walka was going through. He wasn't just dealing with physical pain, he was carrying the heavy weight of losing someone who meant the world to him. Man, on March 25th, 2025, Sauce Walka dropped a heavy tribute to CSOP on Instagram, pouring his heart out in pure pain. He wrote, "Words or tears can't explain the loss I feel. Splat. I wish your fat eye listened to me and stayed in the room." That message hit deep, showing just how tight they really were. Sauce Walka reflected on their solid 4 years rolling together, crossing state lines, and CSOP's loyalty that never wavered for a second. This emotional post added an even more personal layer to a tragedy that had already shaken fans everywhere. At the same time, CSOP's mother stepped up and spoke out, trying to shut down the rumors flying around about the reasons behind her son's death. She completely denied the whispers about theft, saying haters set him up, and heartbreakingly added, "Too loyal to the wrong people was his downfall, and envious haters killed my baby." Her words pointed straight at deeper beef and hidden tensions that might have played a role in what went down that dark day on March 22nd. But the story doesn't end there. Another twist came from music manager Rainwater, who dropped a wild claim during a chat with Whack 100. Rainwater said there could have been a case of mistaken identity, claiming the shooter actually stood over Sauce Walka, realized who he was, and then bolted from the scene. This whole twist just made the situation even messier. Rainwater's claim hinted that the shooters might have had a specific target in mind, and Sauce Walka might have just got caught up in the madness by accident. As the investigation dragged on, the streets and the internet couldn't stop buzzing with theories and emotions. Fans flooded platforms like Reddit, showing all kinds of reactions. Some were straight up heartbroken for CSOP, dropping comments like, "RIP to that man," but others weren't holding back, throwing shade at Sauce Walka, claiming his reckless choices and wild past played a part in his friend's downfall. Theories about the motive were flying left and right. Some online voices speculated that CSOP got caught up in the aftermath of an old robbery in Memphis. One user claimed CSOP may have robbed a plug, and another went even further, stating CSOP robbed a plug in Memphis for money and drugs. But not everyone was buying that story. Some sharp-eyed folks pointed out that a whole bag of cash was left behind at the scene, a clear sign this wasn't about robbery, but something way more personal. This whole situation shines a big spotlight on the ongoing fears about safety in the rap game, where blowing up in the spotlight can sadly attract all the wrong energy. Fans took their debates even deeper, arguing whether this was a full-blown setup aimed straight at CSOP, with Sauce Walka just getting caught in the middle of the storm. A lot of people started saying CSOP might have been a marked man for coming back to a city where he wasn't welcome. This theory stirred up even more drama, making the whole case feel like it had way more layers than anyone first thought. At the same time, the spotlight swung back on Sauce Walka's past, with folks digging up old claims about his ties to gang life. Reports pointed out that back in 2009, Sauce Walka, who went by AWOLK back then, was allegedly connected to the Mash Mode street gang. He even got hit with legal trouble, pleading guilty to deadly conduct after shots were fired at a Texas Southern University concert. Fast forward to 2018, and Texas state court docs were labeling Sauce Factory, his independent label, as a documented gang known for criminal activity. But Sauce Walka hasn't stayed quiet about it. He stood firm in interviews, shutting down the rumors, saying, "I'm gonna keep rapping because I know I'm not a gang. I know we're not a gang. I know that I'm a record label. I know that I'm an artist. I'm not into gang activity or none of that stuff that's going on. I'm not worried about that." Things took a wild turn no one saw coming. The shocking discovery of Jaden Dandridge's body in Houston flipped this whole case upside down. On March 27, 2025, barely a week after the Memphis shooting and just days after he was publicly named as a suspect, Dandridge was found dead inside an abandoned building in Houston, Texas. The scene was eerie. His body was discovered near a loading dock at the old Greenspoint Mall, which instantly raised eyebrows. Why did Dandridge leave Memphis and end up in Houston? And what exactly went down that led to him getting taken out like this? The Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences shut down any guesses fast. They confirmed it loud and clear. This was a homicide. Dandridge had been hit with multiple gunshots, no doubt about it. The eerie similarities between his death and the Memphis shooting were hard to ignore. Both involved gunfire, both seemed like cold, calculated hits, and both ended in deadly results for at least one person caught in the chaos. It felt like the streets were talking, but answers were hard to come by. Houston police confirmed they hadn't arrested anyone yet, and they kept tight-lipped about the motive behind Dandridge's murder. This silence only fueled the fire online. With no solid info, people started drawing their own conclusions, especially with the timing of his death lining up so closely with the Memphis shooting he was accused of. The streets and social media were in full-blown detective mode. After the news of Jaden Dandridge's death broke, the Memphis Police Department officially confirmed they were no longer chasing him as a suspect. Just like that, they closed that part of the case. According to a post by No Jumper, Memphis law enforcement acknowledged Dandridge's death and shifted their attention elsewhere, knowing that with him gone, any legal moves against him were off the table. But the timing? Way too suspicious to ignore. Dandridge was found dead just 5 days after the brutal attack on Sauce Walka and CSOP, and only a day after the police publicly named him as a suspect. This tight timeline had people convinced it wasn't just random chance. It felt like something way deeper was playing out behind the scenes. Adding even more heat to the speculation, just hours after Dandridge's death was reported, Sauce Walka posted a simple but loaded RIP on his Instagram story. He didn't spell anything out, and it wasn't a clear statement about Dandridge, but the timing had people talking nonstop. Fans and followers saw it as a nod to the situation. If not a direct message, then at least an acknowledgement of what had gone down. As folks scrambled for answers about this fast-moving chain of violence, attention snapped back to something Sauce Walka had said in interviews right after the Memphis shooting. He claimed he had 400, 500 dudes on go mode at the snap of a finger. That bold statement had people wondering if this network of riders was ready to move instantly when things got real. But even in those same interviews, Sauce Walka made it clear, or he straight up said he wasn't planning to retaliate. This statement clashed hard with his earlier claims about having 400, 500 dudes on go mode. And that contradiction kept the streets buzzing with nonstop speculation about what really went down after the Memphis shooting. Meanwhile, Sauce Walka's father, known as Papa Sauce, spoke out too, and he didn't hold back on the gravity of the situation. He said, "Had it not been for God, my son would have been dead," making it crystal clear just how close Sauce came to losing his life that day. The emotional weight of it all hit heavy for everyone around him. But it wasn't just the timing between the Memphis shooting and Dandridge's death that had people raising their eyebrows. The location itself added another wild twist. Sauce Walka is Houston through and through, and Dandridge ended up dead in Houston, even though the original hit happened way out in Memphis. This cross-state move got everybody thinking there had to be way more to the story than what was out in the open. One theory making rounds was that Dandridge had traveled to Houston to collect payment, but instead of getting the bag, he got ambushed. Rumors were flying that Sauce Walka himself might have set the whole thing up, luring Dandridge in under the pretense of picking up cash, only for him to get double-crossed at the last moment. Even though none of this was confirmed, it showed just how tangled up these street connections, rivalries, and behind-the-scenes plays really were in this saga. Kevin Brown, just 22 years old, was still on the run, with the cops actively hunting him down. He was facing the same heavy charges that had been slapped on Dandridge, and the fact that he remained a fugitive only added more chaos to this already wild case. It made people wonder, were there still more players out there tied to the attack on Sauce Walka and CSOP? As news of Dandridge's death lit up social media, the reactions came flooding in fast and furious. Pages like Gang Hits and XXL first reported him as a wanted man, highlighting the reward on his head before having to double back and update followers about his sudden death. These updates went viral quick, showing just how locked in the public was on every new twist in this unfolding saga. For some watching from the sidelines, Dandridge's death felt like cold street justice, the brutal eye for an eye mentality playing out in real time. But for others, it was just another chapter in a non-stop cycle of violence, with no clear way out. This wasn't just random street drama. It was starting to feel like something much bigger. When you zoom out and look at Sauce Walka's history, it gives the whole situation even more layers. He's no stranger to controversy. From the wild 2023 car chase and arrest to the 2022 robbery attempt where he claimed he acted in self-defense, Sauce Walka's name has been tangled up in headline after headline. All this added to his reputation as someone living on the edge, no matter the details of each case. Some folks online claim that Sauce Walka's been caught in gunfire every single year since 2021, but not everybody's buying that. Some say it's blown way out of proportion. Still, true or not, the image of constant danger has stuck hard to his name, becoming part of the whole story surrounding his life and career. The fallout from all this has hit deep, and it's been different for everybody involved. For Sauce Walka, the physical recovery from his gunshot wound was just one part of the battle. The real weight came from the emotional toll of losing his close friend and artist, CSOP. His posts on social media showed that pain clear as day, filled with tributes that honored CSOP's potential and the hole his passing left behind. In one post, Sauce Walka wrote, "You left this earth happy and successful," recognizing that his friend had found some peace and success before his life was cut short. Even while struggling with his own grief, Sauce tried to hold on to that positive image of CSOP. For CSOP's family, especially his mother, the aftermath has been nothing but heartbreak, made even worse by all the rumors swirling about the motives behind his death. She pushed back hard against the theft accusations, saying it was haters and too much loyalty to the wrong people that led to her son's downfall. Her words felt like a mother's fight to defend her son's name and make sense of such a senseless loss. Meanwhile, the hip-hop community has been caught up in mourning and deep reflection. Some artists and fans saw this whole situation as a wake-up call, using the moment to fire up fresh conversations about the risks that come with life in the hip-hop spotlight. Sauce Walka's own words about wanting to put an end to community violence ended up sparking even bigger talks. People started looking at everything from how to tighten up personal security to the way violence gets hyped in music to how beefs don't just stay in the booth, they spill out into the streets with real-life consequences. All across social media, the reactions to the Memphis shooting and everything that followed have been split, showing just how complicated and raw these feelings really are. Some fans stood tall behind Sauce Walka, giving him props for what he's done for Houston's rap scene and how he's built up the people around him. One ex-user at Propane713 posted, "Sauce Walka is an artist that all H-Town rappers, old and new, should be riding for and supporting 100% right now, putting big respect on Sauce's name and his impact on the city." Another user at DJ Premium J chimed in saying, "You can say what you want, but Sauce Walka has consistently showed y'all how to hold down your homies and put them in position to win, giving Sauce his flowers as not just a rapper, but a boss who knows how to lift his team." But it hasn't all been love. Criticism has been flying too, especially over claims that Sauce's risky moves and wild choices might have played a role in all this chaos. A lot of people online weren't holding back, straight up blaming CSOP's death on Sauce Walka's recklessness and bad decisions. That feeling echoed across platforms as folks started questioning his lack of proper security and the choices he made before the Memphis ambush. On X, some users even went harder, calling Sauce out for what they saw as straight up clout chasing. As Fat Mac Wop didn't mince words, saying, "Sauce Walka, low-key cornball, clout chasing type FRLOL, that's actually kind of how he got on. Clout chasing, trying to beef with Young Thug, throwing shade at Sauce's rise to fame, claiming it was more about stirring up drama than pure talent." Another user at 3SSL04B887GIA called him out heavy too, saying Sauce was a peon fake PIRU who should be slandered. throwing major doubt on his street credentials and gang claims. These kinds of shots kept piling up, fueling the fire around Sauce's image. What kept popping up even more, though, was concern about his safety. Mike's Music Take on X dropped a post that grabbed serious attention saying, "Not so fun fact, Sauce Walka has been shot or shot at every year since 2021. Sauce needs to move different, hire security or something, especially when you're flying into different cities. RIP to his artists." The message was loud and clear. Sauce is way too exposed, and people felt he needed to tighten up before something worse happened. And over on Reddit, the conversation kept rolling. Fans were sounding off about how rappers and athletes flashing too hard on social media just paint big targets on their backs. The criticism didn't just stop with Sauce Walka, it stretched way further, calling out the wider culture in certain circles. People were really starting to push for change, hoping to stop these kinds of tragedies from happening again. While the debates kept heating up online, law enforcement in both Memphis and Houston were still grinding, working their angles on these wild cases. With Jaden Dandridge already gone, Memphis police turned all their focus to tracking down Kevin Brown, the second suspect in the original Memphis shooting. Brown was still out there, running free, facing the same stack of charges Dandridge had been hit with. Meanwhile, over in Houston, investigators were still piecing together the puzzle of who took Dandridge out. As of early April 2025, no arrest had been made, and they weren't sharing any motive yet, keeping the streets full of questions. This lack of closure had everybody speculating hard about whether these two deadly cases were connected. Some folks on social media were convinced that Dandridge's death was straight payback for the Memphis shooting, a hit plan to settle the score. Others figured it might have just been a crazy coincidence with no real tie between the two events. But with no clear word from the cops, people were left to play detective, connecting the dots with the timing, the locations, and the suspicious details that kept stacking up. What really hit home, though, was how these events sparked bigger talks about violence in the rap game. Sauce Walka's claim that he wouldn't retaliate for CSOP's murder, even though he said he had a whole network ready to move at any moment, really caught people's attention. Whether he truly meant it from the heart or it was a smart play to ease the heat after such a high-profile shooting, it sparked a serious conversation about breaking the cycle of violence. Some folks respected the stance, seeing it as a sign of growth, while others stayed skeptical, wondering if it was all just talk. That split reaction showed something bigger, though. It reflected the ongoing tension between street justice and the official justice system, between revenge and forgiveness, and between the tough public image and what's really going on behind the scenes. The whole situation also pulled fresh attention back onto Memphis, a city that's been through it, with violence hitting the hip-hop community hard. Memphis, which has birthed some of the most influential voices in Southern rap, has sadly seen its share of headline-making incidents in recent years. With the Memphis police confirming that the attack on Sauce Walka and CSOP was no random act but a targeted hit, it raised even more alarms about the risks artists face when moving through the city. And then there's Houston. The discovery of Jaden Dandridge's body there stirred up a whole other wave of questions. Since Sauce Walka calls Houston home, people couldn't help but wonder about the deep connections between these two cities. This whole saga has turned into a wild cross-state story, pulling in people and connections from multiple cities, which has only made both investigations and public understanding even messier. For the fans of Sauce Walka and CSOP, all of this chaos has led to some deep reflection on both artists' careers and the legacies they were building. CSOP, only 27 years old, was just starting to make real noise in the game. He had recently signed to Sauce Factory and was carving out his own lane in the music world. His death didn't just take away a life, it robbed the industry of an artist with real potential. Sauce Walka's tributes made that clear, as he pointed out how CSOP had already tasted success and found happiness before his life was cut short. It's a small piece of comfort in the middle of so much heartbreak. As for Sauce Walka himself, his career continues to push forward, riding the waves of both major wins and non-stop controversy. On Reddit, even with all the drama, fans are still giving him his props. Some users have called him bar for bar, one of the best rappers by far in Texas and even in the rap game, period. The respect for his talent stays strong, even as people stay critical of the choices he makes off the mic. It's a crazy balance. Sauce Walka's lyrical skills are undeniable, but his personal decisions keep pulling him into the storm. And this wild story just goes to show how deep the streets run and how fast things can spiral. If you've been locked in so far, make sure you like this video, drop a comment with your thoughts, and share it with your people so they don't miss out on the drama. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you're always tapped in when the next twist drops. And hey, if you're curious about how other crazy stories are unfolding, go ahead and click the video popping up on your screen right now. For some reason, YouTube swears it's the one you need to see next. Catch you on the next one.